Is what happened to Maya? Y'all know Maya, honey. You know, she was on top of the game, and next thing you know, it was rumors that Jay-Z had her taken off for Beyonce, just like he had Aaliyah taken out allegedly for Beyonce. Did y'all even know that Jay-Z and Maya allegedly dated? Honey, he used her and threw it away like trash, like he always do. I came across this video and I want y'all to look at this in its entirety because it's telling some stuff that, honey, y'all may not have heard before. So let's get into it. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot. Honey, let's see what they got to say about Maya and this stuff with Jay-Z and Beyonce. Girl, what?
That's high school making me chase you round for months. Having a fear, act like it is doleful.
Did you hear Beyonce overnight?
No, what happened?
She released all of this stuff, accusing Jay-Z of cheating.
Oh, that's awful.
How did you stay so guarded within your career?
This is what I did. I said, no, I'm good. Thank you. No, thank you.
The night Maya found out how dangerous Jay-Z and Beyoncé really were, she didn't say a word. No interviews, no name drops, no scandal. But the very next year, her album disappeared. Her radio support vanished, and the collaborations, gone.
You have to be willing to say, I'm good, and walk away.
She had been at the top, platinum records, hit features, Grammy performances. Then, after one remix, one rumor, and one quiet refusal, she was locked out.
I never got over the hurt, you know what I'm saying? Because I live with you, and then you develop a complex, and you might lash out at the person or consume a whole lot of insecurity.
The headlines never mentioned her. The press never asked why. But people in the industry knew, and the few who were paying attention, they saw it happen in real time. Before the rumors, before the blackballing, before her name got dragged through industry whispers, Maya Harrison was on track to be one of the biggest artists of her generation. She was the full package, classically trained in dance, gifted in vocals, poised in interviews, and signed to Interscope by the time she was 15. Her debut album, released in 1998, went platinum and made her a household name almost overnight. She wasn't just performing hits. She was a part of the culture. It's All About Me with Cisco, Take Me There from the Rugrats movie, and Ghetto Superstar alongside Pras and ODB gave her back-to-back mainstream success. She was the kind of artist who could headline a jazz festival one week and a tap dance showcase the next. She had the voice, the look, the range, and the industry seemed wide open for her. But something changed, and not because the talent disappeared. It didn't. It was something else. Behind the scenes, her label started playing games with her fourth studio album. Control Freak was shelved without warning, renamed Liberation, and ultimately leaked in Japan. Maya never sued. She didn't make noise. But that silence wasn't peace. It was her being pushed out. She left the major label system soon after, started her own imprint, Planet 9, and slowly, quietly, the industry stopped calling. For years, fans assumed it was mismanagement or bad luck. But then came the interviews, and what Maya said in those interviews, especially about how she was treated, who approached her, and what she turned down, made people rethink everything. Because Maya wasn't just forgotten. She was erased. By 2000, Maya was still riding high off the momentum of her debut and sophomore albums. Her collaborations had crossed genres, from pop to hip-hop to R&B, and every track felt like a new win. But it was The Best of Me, Part 2, with Jay-Z, that really shifted the energy around her career, not just musically, but politically. Because that record wasn't just a remix, it was a warning shot. And the fallout didn't hit the charts, it hit her behind the scenes. The original Best of Me featured Jadakiss and was produced by Swizz Beatz. It was supposed to be one of the leading singles from her Fear of Flying album. It did okay, not a smash, but enough to keep her name buzzing. But the remix, the now iconic Part 2 with Jay-Z, was something else entirely. It was bold, edgy, street smart, and club ready. Jay was in full prime Rockefeller form, dropping sly metaphors and name-checking Maya directly in his lyrics. The chemistry on that record was undeniable. They weren't just vibing, they sounded like a couple.
That's high school making me chase you round for months. Have an affair, act like an adult for once.
And that's exactly where the rumors began. Jay-Z had already built a reputation for blending business and pleasure. So when the remix dropped, people started asking questions. Were Jay and Maya actually involved? Was Beyoncé already in the picture? And if so, how deep did it go? Maya never confirmed anything. In fact, she avoided the topic for years. But industry insiders began to whisper that her proximity to Jay-Z, real or perceived, created a problem. Not just with Beyoncé, but with the powerful circle that surrounded her. It didn't help that Beyoncé and Jay-Z's relationship was becoming more public around the same time. Maya was now viewed as a threat, not because of what she said, but because of what she might have done. The rumors exploded online years later. Blogs began reposting old pictures. Fan pages pushed timelines suggesting that The Best of Me, Part 2, had been more than a studio session. By 2014, Beyoncé had released Resentment, and suddenly lyrics like, "I'll always remember feeling like I was no good, like I couldn't do it for you like that whore could," were being tied back to Maya.
My daughter keeps forgiving, and I'm
Again, Maya said nothing, until she had to. In 2014, a fan asked her directly on Instagram whether she had ever had an affair with Jay-Z. Her response was immediate. Never did, never was, never will. Illegitimate, thirsty sources with no facts, and that's the media for you, especially today. It was sharp, professional, and still didn't stop the rumors. But that's how blackballing works. It doesn't need proof. It just needs perception. And after the Jay-Z remix, the perception was that Maya had crossed a line. Whether it was jealousy, retaliation, or just politics, her major label support began to fade. That same year, she independently released Sweet 16, and despite solid vocals and production, the project didn't chart. Interviews became harder to book. TV performances stopped. Red carpets disappeared. When you look at the timeline, it's clear. Before The Best of Me, Part 2, Maya was being positioned as one of the top R&B pop stars of her generation. After it, she was quietly pushed to the sidelines. And to this day, no one in that circle, not Beyoncé, not Jay-Z, not anyone from Rock Nation, has ever publicly addressed it. But Maya has made one thing clear. She turned down things that didn't feel right. And in this industry, that's often all it takes to be marked.
How did you stay so guarded within your career?
This is what I did. I said, no, I'm good. Thank you. No, thank you.
In the years following Maya's fallout with the major label system and the cold silence from Jay-Z's camp, the industry power structure began to shift, but not in her favor. At the top of that structure sat two of the most untouchable figures in hip-hop and R&B, Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs. On the surface, they were competitors, but behind the scenes, they were deeply aligned, not just in business, but in influence. Jay-Z's connection to Diddy had always been clear. They weren't just collaborators. They were part of the same elite social circle. They performed together, vacationed together, attended the same events, sat front row at Rock Nation brunches and Met galas.
2020, y'all. And it's different than when it was 2016. You know, the game has been elevated. As we can tell, there's no expense being spared. We had a black billionaire's lunch.
And most importantly, they protected each other. Jay-Z's connection to Diddy has always been powerful, but now it's starting to look dangerous. For years, they held the keys to careers. Who got signed? Who got radio? Who got erased? And Maya? She wasn't just collateral damage. She was someone who, according to insiders, had seen enough to know when to walk away. But that's not all. Maya also has a deeper connection to Diddy and Jay-Z than we ever thought. And it concerns Kim Porter, the woman who many say knew too much, stayed too quiet, and died too suddenly. The exact moment Maya found out Kim had passed, it wasn't just shock, it was fear.
Can somebody tell me what's going on and what happened, please? All I see is RP. Is this real? And how? What?
That reaction told us more than words ever could. To understand why that hit so hard, we have to go back. On December 8th, 2024, Jay-Z found himself pulled into a lawsuit that accused him of some of the same things Diddy was being exposed for. In response, Jay went public with a long, emotional statement, calling Busby a fraud and demanding a criminal complaint be filed instead of a civil case. He wrote, "My only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down and explain the cruelty and greed of people." But Busby fired back just as hard, accusing Jay-Z of bullying and trying to silence victims. He said, "Regarding the Jay-Z case and his efforts to silence my clients, Mr. Carter previously denied being the one who sued me and my firm. He filed his frivolous case under a pseudonym. What he fails to say in his recent statement is my firm sent his lawyer a demand letter on behalf of an alleged victim, and that victim never demanded a penny from him." Busby then continues, "Instead, she only sought a confidential mediation. Since I sent the letter on her behalf, Mr. Carter has not only sued me, but he has tried to bully and harass me and this plaintiff. His conduct has had the opposite impact. She is emboldened. I'm very proud of her resolve." Overall, he sounds more than confident in his argument against Jay-Z as he concludes by saying, "As far as the allegations in the complaint filed, we will let the filing speak for itself and will litigate the facts in court, not in the media." That's when fans started connecting the dots, especially those familiar with Diddy's current legal battles. If Diddy was going down, who else might be tied to the same system of control, silence, and exploitation? And that's where the old rumors came rushing back. Not just about Maya, but about Foxy Brown, Aaliyah, and even Beyoncé herself. Foxy, for years, had been dropping hints in interviews and off-the-record conversations that her rise in the industry came with serious costs. She allegedly said Jay-Z took her virginity when she was just 15, that he funded her lifestyle while she was still in high school, that their encounters weren't just private, they were recorded, and that one of those tapes mysteriously disappeared from her home. Even worse, Foxy claimed Jay forced her to sign multiple NDAs, and that one particular encounter involved not just Jay, but actor and comedian Jamie Foxx, in what she alleged was a recorded threesome that she later described as violating. It's dark, messy, and disturbing. But now people are starting to listen to her differently. Add to that the persistent speculation around Jay-Z's relationship with Beyoncé. He was 31. She was 19. She's since said they didn't start dating until she was of legal age, but the fact that he was already circling her when she was still a teenager has never sat right with many fans, especially when you consider how sheltered and work-focused Beyoncé said her childhood was. She sacrificed her youth for the grind, and Jay-Z entered that picture with far more power than she had at the time.
Right into it. How did two of the biggest names in music even meet?
Well, we met a long time ago. Award shows, a lot of different performances.
Today, Beyoncé is a force on her own. She doesn't need to stand behind anyone. But some fans still question how that relationship began, and what Jay-Z really saw when he first started pursuing her. Maya, on the other hand, wasn't willing to play the long game. She kept her independence. She refused the offers. She avoided the parties. And for that, she got pushed out. Because in this business, when you don't submit, you disappear.
You will be blackballed. You will be talked about. You will be shitted on. You will be rumored about. But you have to stand strong on what you don't care for.
By the mid-2000s, Maya's presence in the mainstream began fading, not because of a lack of talent, scandals, or artistic failure, but because she had quietly been pushed out. From the outside, it looked like she was just slowing down, but in reality, she had been systematically frozen out of the very machine that helped build her name. The signs were subtle at first: delays in single rollouts, lack of promotion, and shelved albums with no explanation. Then the signs got louder: canceled performances, absence from award shows she once hosted, and interview invitations that suddenly dried up. After her third studio album, Mood Ring, was released in 2003, Maya was set to deliver what should have been a defining project. Her fourth album, Control Freak, was highly anticipated, a title that hinted she was stepping into her power and taking creative control. But the project was shelved without notice. The name was changed. The rollout was stopped. And when Liberation was finally released, it was only available in Japan, not through a press tour, not through BET or TRL, and not even with an official US release date. It leaked quietly and without context. That's not a fluke. That's blackballing. In the music industry, being blackballed isn't like being publicly canceled. It's worse. There's no moment, no headline, no dramatic fallout. Instead, it happens in silence. Your label drops you, but doesn't explain why. Your songs stop getting service to radio. Producers stop taking your calls, not because you're not talented, but because they've been told not to. Suddenly, you're not invited to the VMAs. Even though you have a project out, your name disappears from red carpet lists. You don't see the press articles dragging you. You just don't see any at all. That's what happened to Maya. Between 2004 and 2007, she dropped off the map, even though she was still working. No reality show appearances, no major interviews, no brand endorsements, and no features with the artists she once collaborated with regularly. She had already proven she could chart with the best. It's All About Me, Case of the X, Free, Ghetto Superstar. But suddenly, there were no collabs, no Neptune's beats, no Swizz beats, no Missy, no Jadakiss, and certainly no Jay. And while that blackout would have crushed most artists, Maya did something nearly unheard of. She walked away from the entire system and started from scratch. She founded her own independent label, Planet 9, and took complete control of her career. From budgeting music videos to studio time to licensing, she did it herself. Her first truly independent album, Sugar and Spice, was released in Japan in 2008 with no US push. No mainstream magazine even reviewed it, but her Japanese fanbase supported it, and Maya didn't stop. In 2009, she dropped Beauty in the Streets Volume 1, a mixtape-style album that quietly moved through the underground. Then came KISS in 2011, Smooth Jones in 2016, which was even Grammy-nominated under the radar, and several EPs like Love Elevation Suite, Sweet 15, and TKO in 2018. She also mastered live performance as a way to sustain her brand. Maya spent years touring in international markets, Dubai, Australia, South Africa, the UK, while remaining off the mainstream US radar. While major artists were signing 360 deals and chasing radio hits, Maya was doing sold-out shows across continents, licensing her own catalog and keeping 100% ownership of her masters. And through all of this, she said almost nothing publicly about the people who had shut her out. She never named Jay-Z. She never responded to Beyoncé fans flooding her comments. She didn't throw Diddy under the bus, but if you've watched her interviews closely, you can see it. The restraint, the awareness, the coded language. Maya had figured out what most artists learned too late, that fame can be a trap dressed up as a gift. And if you aren't willing to play the game, they'll treat you like you were never invited in the first place. She didn't lash out. She didn't go online to rant, but the coded language in her interviews made it clear. The blackball wasn't imagined. It was earned for saying no.
And you have to not be desperate. You have to be willing to say, I'm good, and walk away.
By the time Maya made the decision to leave the industry system behind, she understood exactly what she was walking away from. There was no dramatic exit, no official statement. But her absence from the places she once occupied was intentional. Saying no to certain people meant losing access to nearly everything that came with the machine. The marketing, the radio placement, the award shows, and the press coverage. And once she chose not to play the game, the consequences followed quickly. She was no longer invited to high-profile events. Her name stopped appearing on major lineups. Collaboration opportunities dried up, even with artists who had once worked with her. Not because her talent changed, but because her status did. She was no longer seen as part of the system. And in that world, separation often equals exile. For Maya, the price of independence wasn't just creative control. It was a career slowdown that would have ended most artists. The people she said no to held real power. They could greenlight tours, control playlists, and decide which artists got magazine covers and stage time. And once she turned them down, whether it was a deal, an invitation, or something more personal, they didn't confront her directly. They just moved on without her. What makes Maya's story different is that she didn't try to force her way back in. She didn't pivot to controversy or chase viral moments. She didn't reinvent herself to fit what was trending. She shifted her focus to running her own label, creating her own work, and booking shows in markets that would have her, even if the American mainstream no longer would. She found her audience in Japan, in Europe, in Africa, and in independent spaces where she could operate without politics. Still, the industry's response affected her legacy. Her name was often left out of retrospectives. When people listed influential R&B artists from the 2000s, she was frequently overlooked. Awards shows didn't reach out. Brands didn't ask her to participate in tribute performances or anniversaries. Newer artists who had clearly taken inspiration from her sound and image were never encouraged to cite her publicly. That silence wasn't accidental. It was the industry continuing to pretend she didn't matter because she chose not to conform. But Maya stayed consistent. She gave interviews where she spoke carefully, without bitterness. She hinted at what she had seen and what she had turned down, but never sensationalized it. Even as more powerful men in the business began to face lawsuits and public exposure, she chose not to attach herself to the chaos. She had already lived through it and already made her choice.
I know what I feel. And when I feel negativity, and when I feel ultimatums coming my way, I gotta maneuver elsewhere.
She meant every word. She didn't lose everything. She walked away from what no longer served her. And while her career could have gone further inside the machine, the trade-offs weren't worth it. She retained her name, her rights, and her voice. And with time, people began to realize that her silence was never weakness. It was her protection. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks.